So next we get to start the highlight of the meeting, Mr. Paul Sallach. I want to introduce Paul. Kind of an interesting story. I met Paul through my wife. My wife is a teacher at Faith Lutheran, and she teaches a class, American History, Government, called We the People. And Paul, every year my wife brings a class to Washington, D.C., and Paul signed up to be a chaperone. And so my wife also invites all the chaperones over for a dinner, and that's how I met Paul. And so kind of we hit it off kind of quickly, but as I'm talking to him, like, oh, the airplane business, he was telling me all about his business, and I'm like, that's fascinating. And so we got into a conversation about insurance, and I came out and talked to him and looked at his business. I was super impressed. The guy goes a million miles an hour, he's always doing something, but he's extremely focused and detail-oriented, and I was just like super impressed. But when I was in his office, I saw the We Love Jesus sticker on the desktop. I know I got to talk to this guy about the CBN group. So really quickly, what I know about Paul is daughter Anna and son Quentin, and he is 2020 State of Nevada Small Business Person of the Year, and then also top 40 Vegas 40 under 40 with the Henderson Chamber. Not anymore. Yeah. So he won that award. Besides that, he's super actively involved with his children. I know that he loves to travel. I was fascinated since we've become friends. We're now Facebook friends, and travels all around the world to Sweden, to the Ice Hotel is a recent thing. So every time there's a trip, every time there's a school vacation, he gets an airplane to go somewhere. So just a fascinating guy. But anyways, I just kind of want to, I'm dying to hear what he has to say, but I'm super proud to meet you, and I'm super impressed with your business acumen.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Paul. I came to this for the first time last week, or last month, I guess it was, and listened to what Mr. Billy Walters had to say, and I'm thinking to myself, man, that is a tough act to follow, this Vegas icon gambler, right, that testified in prison and witnessed to his faith, kind of like a guy in the Bible, right, named Paul. So when Paul called me and said, hey, I need a Paul to come and follow up Billy Walters, anyways, that was my segue. So I'm Pilot Paul. As Paul mentioned, he does my insurance. If you guys are looking for medical benefits plan for your employees, he does a fantastic job. So I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about what we do in the aviation world. When he asked me to do this, he said, Paul, this is a business meeting. People aren't there necessarily to hear a sermon. They want to hear what you do. So I'm not here to preach, but I'm going to show you what we do, and I'm going to give you a little bit of context on how I got to where I am. So let me see if this works. So this is a picture of me, my dad, and my grandpa. So I am a pastor's kid, right? But not only am I a pastor's kid, my dad is a Lutheran Church, Missouri Synod pastor, but both of my grandpas are pastors also, right? So both my mom's dad and my dad's dad. So my mom's dad was a missionary. She was actually born in the Philippines, traveled around all over the place, and ultimately landed in Oregon when he retired. And my dad's dad was a preacher in South Dakota, went to the seminary in St. Louis, Missouri, where our synod does their summer school. And when you get done with seminary school in our church, you go on what's called a vicarage. It's basically a 1-year sort of on-the-job training. So my dad got assigned to my grandpa's church in Oregon, right? So then I'm sure all the drama back in the day was that the vicar was dating the pastor's daughter, but they ultimately got married. And my mom, being that she traveled all over the world, she wanted to be a missionary. My dad, being that he was from South Dakota, didn't want to travel all over the world, so they settled on Canada, right? So I was born in Canada, just outside of Edmonton, Alberta. Spent a lot of my young years in the backyard skating. Yes, in your backyard in Edmonton, Alberta, you literally go out there with a hose, you freeze it, and you can skate all winter long because that's all that you can afford to do when you're a pastor's kid, is skate in the backyard. We couldn't afford organized hockey, but we got to watch one of the greats. Wayne Gretzky was there. When we were there, we would go watch the Oilers practice at the West Edmonton Mall. So it was really a lot of fun to be part of hockey, and now to have hockey here in Las Vegas is super exciting. We then later moved to Vancouver Island, and when my grandpa, who you see here, when he was ready to retire from this church, actually right there, he wanted my dad to take over his church, right? So my grandpa was, if you guys remember back about 25 years ago, you used to, on Sunday mornings when you turned on the TV, you would watch church, right? This is before the Sunday national news shows became all the norm. So my grandpa was on TV for 25 years and wanted my dad to take over the TV ministry, of which he was then on until eventually it became national news. So anyways, that was my upbringing, and as you can imagine, you get the pressure, right, to be the third generation of pastor when both of your grandpas and your dad are pastors. But being that I was the preacher's kid, I spent a lot of time in church, being the janitor, snow blowing, sitting outside my dad's office waiting on him to finish up meeting with a member, going to hospitals to visit people. And I really came to the realization that being a pastor is really a calling, right? You have to be called to this. So I'm sure, are there some pastors in the room? Raise your hand if so. Round of applause for the pastors in the room. Right? This really is tough work, and I don't think they get the love that they deserve. So before I jump into talking about what we do, I just thought I'd share a few things from the perspective of a pastor's kid. My dad, we went to 4 different churches while I was being raised. And what I came to the quick realization is that every church, it came down to a handful of families that financially supported that ministry. And oftentimes in one hand, right? So these are smaller churches, but I came to that realization and said, you know what, one day I want to grow up and be one of those people that financially supports these churches that need financial support. There's certainly other gifts that are needed in the church, but there's not that many people that are financially supporting them. So I would say to you to be one of those, the few that actually tithe. The other thing that I thought that I would say is an interesting perspective as the preacher's kid is my parents always got this one gift from the George family every year, and it was Christmas. They always got a gift card to go to a really nice restaurant in town. It seemed so small, but man, every single year that it was like my parents' anniversary, that it was something special, it was something they could never afford to do on their own. But they always remember that it was the George family. So it was another one of those things as a young pastor's kid that I'm like, one day when I grow up, I'm going to go do this. And we do it now. And I will tell you that it is one of the most fun things to do. To every year give that pastor a meaningful, some of these restaurants in town are not cheap to go to. And they're never going to go on their own. And when they do go, they're going to probably shoot you a text where you're going to have something to talk about when you go to the next service. So take care of your pastors, I think is what I would say. There's not enough people that are loving on them as they need to be loved on. So yeah. So it comes time for me to decide on what I want to do. If I'm not going to be the preacher's succession plan, what am I going to do? And being that we were one of, I had 6 brothers and sisters, I was the oldest of 7, something that we never could afford to do was to travel. So I thought it would be very cool to get paid to travel all over the place, right? And at the time, it was a very prestigious job to fly for Delta or United. This would be a $500,000 a year income, and I'm thinking to myself, man, I can help support the church in a financial way if I could just be a pilot. So I applied and got accepted to go to Embry-Riddle down at Daytona Beach. Very nice school, prestigious school, but also very expensive. And another God thing here in our church, one of the members of our church knew that I wanted to become a pilot. And he wasn't a pilot himself, but he was a graduate of the University of North Dakota. And he said, I get these quarterly newsletters from my university, and they keep on talking about this aerospace program that they have. You might want to check it out. And I'll never forget the guy's name, because as a 17-year-old, when you hear a guy's name of Dick Wanger, you don't forget. We should listen to what Mr. Wanger said. We literally went to North Dakota. We went over there. We saved ourselves 50% of what it would have cost to go down to Embry-Riddle. And anyways, started my career in aviation at the University of North Dakota. And I was telling our table here, so University of North Dakota, the other thing that they're known for is college hockey. And college hockey Frozen 4 is at 2 o'clock at the T-Mobile Arena, and the University of North Dakota is playing at 2 o'clock. So that's where I will be as soon as this is over. But the other great thing that at North Dakota that happened is that I met my wife. She also went to school to be an airline pilot there. I met her as she was my student when I first met, but then eventually we didn't start dating until years later. But after we had accumulated, hundreds of thousands of student loan debt and ready to go and reap the reward, right, and start flying for Delta Airlines, what happened? Airplanes flew into the World Trade Center, right? There was no jobs to be had. All the airlines started cutting pay. It was a really dire time to be in the aviation industry. Stuck in Grand Forks, North Dakota, trying to find work, right? And there's not a lot of work in Grand Forks, North Dakota if you're not working for the university. But down the road, there was this up-and-coming company that nobody had ever heard of at the time. It was called Cirrus Aircraft. They were in Duluth, Minnesota. They needed flight instructors to teach people how to fly their brand new airplanes. So both my wife and I, we both went to Duluth, Minnesota to become flight instructors. And we got to fly brand new airplanes and teach. It would come standard with 3 days of training. And we would get to teach these people how to fly their new airplanes, often fly home with them. So we got to see places all over the country, right? I said I never got to travel before. I made up for it in spades, right? We went everywhere. If you come to my office at the Henderson Airport, you'll see I have a pin map of all the airports that I've landed at. I've got just over 1,000 different airports in the United States of America that I've landed at. So I was working to get myself promoted into a sales role there in Cirrus, and being the young buck that I was, they wanted to hire more seasoned veterans in the sales realm. So every time an opportunity came up, I got overlooked. And it was super frustrating. And it was 2008, and the economy is starting to look a little rough. People aren't necessarily buying new airplanes. My dad's health was turning, and it was not looking so good. We got engaged at the very beginning of the year, and I said I want my dad to be able to marry me before he passes away. So we got married in August of 2008. My grandpa died in October of 2008. My dad died in December of 2008. And I quit my job in January of 2009 and moved to Las Vegas to start selling used airplanes, where I could make 100% commission. There was no salary, but I bet on myself that I could sell some stuff and I could make some money, right? So that's what brought me here to Las Vegas in January 2009, was to sell pre-owned airplanes. And what was funny about 2000, well, I guess I should make mention of what this is, because Paul alluded to it. So for those of you, I'm not going to give it away right now, but when I was a young kid, and I told you that I was always at the church, when I was a young kid, I would look at that, I was like, man, my dad is really smart because he can read what that is, right? thought that it was Latin or Greek or it was something. And it's kind of tough to tell when you're up close to it because it's wood, and there's wood that sticks out, just like an abstract 3D thing. And I don't know what year it came to me that I realized what it actually was. Everybody see it now that I'm saying, right? It says Jesus, right? And so when he passed away in 2008, it was like the only thing that I wanted from my dad's office was to be able to have the same piece of art in my office so that it can be a conversation point. It catches people's eye. It's not too in your face, right? But it's certainly something that is a conversation piece that has opened up a lot of interesting dialogues in a world that is somewhat secular, as we all know. Okay, so I'll just talk through pre-owned sales from 2009 until 2016. What was happening is that people would come to Las Vegas and say, "Hey, I love this airplane that you have for sale. I want to rent it, and I want to go to the Grand Canyon. I want to go do something, right? And when I'm hired by one of you to sell your airplane, you don't really want me joyriding around in your airplane." And I kept on saying no to this request over and over. That was one problem that was happening. The second problem that was happening is that people that I were selling these airplanes to, there was nobody there for after-sales support. So I'd give you the keys to your brand new airplane and then hire somebody to come in from LA, hire somebody to come in from Denver, or somewhere that had the expertise to be able to give them good quality flight instruction. So in 2016, that's when we started the flight school, All In Aviation. I put a little video in here. I don't know if this is going to work. How do I do the sound?
Let's go.
Is there sound? Well, this will anyways give you sort of the visuals of what it looks like at our business. So we have Cirrus airplanes. That was the one that both Lindsay and I worked at. Those are the low-wing, composite, sexy-looking airplanes. We also have Cessna airplanes. So as it stands today, this is a Cessna airplane right there that we purchased from my alma mater, University of North Dakota. So sad that the sound is not working, but you can, Paul walked through our facility. This is our maintenance facility that I'll get to. So let me just talk through the other side of the coin. Is I sold the guy a plane, but what about somebody that just wants to start from ground zero, right? What if you guys want to not necessarily buy a plane, but you want to become a pilot and be able to benefit from all the things that being a pilot will afford? There's three main different types of pilot training that we now do. A private pilot allows you to fly with your family, your business associates. You can't be compensated, nobody can pay you for it, but you can fly anybody that you want, really anywhere that you want, at any time that you want. And there's a minimum of 40 hours. I'm not going to read this all off of the screen, but just I'll give you guys sort of a rough order of magnitude. So to become a private pilot, maybe $25,000 in the rough order of magnitude. To become an instrument-rated pilot is probably another $25,000. A commercial pilot, you need to accumulate some additional hours. You're probably looking at another $25,000 to $50,000, depending on what you're going to fly in. So most people that are going to buy the plane and fly for fun are just going to stop at step number one, right? If you want to fly and go somewhere where you want to fly in the clouds, you're going to go to step number two. If you want to eventually work for somebody like me or somebody else in the aviation industry, you have to go through and become a commercial pilot. So I would say to you that we have two main types of customers. We have what I would call the aspirational customer. Everybody raise your hand if you ever wanted to become a pilot, right? It takes time, it takes money, right? So like once you finally have time, hopefully you have money and then maybe you do it. That would be the aspirational customer that would probably be the one that would maybe buy an airplane. But then we also have the career-oriented customer, where somebody like me, when I was young, I wanted to become a pilot and make a living out of it. So we have different airplanes to cater to different costs. That's what I was saying, the Cessna airplanes are a little bit less expensive than the Cirrus airplanes. And then what I'll talk through here is if you do decide that you want to become a pilot, what I would suggest to you is come check it out, right? If you want to do it in our Cessna airplane, it's $450. You can take friends with you. If you want to do it in a Cirrus airplane, it's $600. And that's really the best way to just try it on, right? And decide whether or not it's something that you got too sick, you couldn't do it, or maybe you fell in love and had a passion that you never knew that you had. After that, I'd say make sure that you're medically fit, because what oftentimes will happen is people will catch the bug, they'll say, all right, I'm going to do this, and they spend tens of thousands of dollars, because you don't need to get your medical until you fly by yourself, right? So you can fly with a flight instructor, spend all this money, and then you want to fly by yourself, you go to the doctor, and they say, hey, you have some problem with your medical condition. So step one, and then quickly followed by step two, and then you're unleashed to do the rest of it. So that's sort of the flight school side of the business. The other challenge that we were running into here in Las Vegas is that people would buy an airplane and there was nowhere to put it, right? So we were constrained by land or by hangars. So back in 2018, we presented to Clark County that we wanted to develop 5 acres of land and put what turned out to be 26 hangars. So you can see there's 9 hangars here. These are what we would call box hangars. They're just big boxes. And then here you see that there's a row, so there's 16 T hangars. So this hangar goes this way, and then on the other side, there'd be a similar door that would back into these little openings here. So you can back the airplanes kind of like a game of Tetris. So that got approved in 2018. We broke ground in 2019. And I seem to have this theme in my life that right when things are ready to go, what happens? Something happens in the world, right? So we got our certificate of occupancy on like April 16th, 2020. You guys remember what was happening then? Yeah, the world was shutting down and nobody was traveling, right? You would go to the airports, it was dead. It was crickets. And we just put millions of dollars into this investment that we thought was going to be a great ROI. And there was nobody. Nobody would fly commercial. Nobody flew period, right? So that was a time of a lot of prayer, as you can probably imagine. But you fast forward that a month or 2 months when the recovery started happening, suddenly, what did I say it took to become a pilot? Time and money. What did people with money suddenly find a lot of? Time, right? All of a sudden people were like, I've always wanted to become a pilot. Now's the time to do it. I got time to actually go and do it. So once our doors opened, finally, it was like the floodgates. And then secondarily, the other thing that was happening is nobody wanted to get in a commercial airliner with 150 complete strangers, right? So people that had the money finally gave themselves permission to spend a little more to fly themselves where they wanted to go on their schedule. So it worked out that these hangars that looked like were going to take us down have really turned into a very good venture. And as Paul alluded to, in 2020, at the end of the year, they awarded for the state of Nevada, got the Business Person of the Year. That's from all of our senators, representatives, and governor. Usually, you get to go to Washington D.C. and wear the Nevada sash, but that didn't happen for us because COVID shut it down. But it was a big honor to be recognized in that way. And then the next thing that happened was that my partner that I built all these hangars with, he decided it was time for him to retire. So Ken Sharada is his name. Some of you guys might know him. He's been around town for a very long time. So he decided to retire in 2024. So I bought out the maintenance side of his business to be able to support sales, like we were talking about to start all this, right? We need to, after sales support, we got to be able to train you, we got to be able to hangar it, we got to be able to maintain it, and to take very good care of it. So We rebranded it. It's the same company legally, but it's now under the All In umbrella. We take care of many different airplanes, but typically our customer is the customer that flies themselves, right? So I want to do business with the guy that's a pilot. Once you get into an airplane where you have to hire a pilot and you have a crew and all that's kind of in a different category from what we do. But the fun part about working with pilots is that I can sit shoulder to shoulder with them, right, and give them some wisdom on what we do as flight instructors and what we might do in maintenance. And you get to know these guys on a personal level, and it really has been a very rewarding business. So here's all the different things that we do in our business. I sort of went through each and every one of those very quickly, but I was told to be quick so that I didn't get too long-winded. But these are the things that All In does. We have offices at North Las Vegas as well. We've got 3 of our 20 airplanes up there. But the bulk of our business is at the Henderson Executive Airport. So to sort of encapsulate what it is that we do, we currently have 82 employees, of which 16 of those are flight instructors, 32 are mechanics. You can see the math doesn't add up entirely because there's a ton of people that support this, right? There's people that fuel the airplanes, that clean the planes, the janitors that are there, the admin, all the support staff to make sure that the staff, the wheels or the wings stay on the airplane. I just thought I would touch a little bit about the Henderson Airport because you guys have probably never been there. So this will be very, very brief. But the Henderson Airport, does anybody know underneath the Harry Reid airspace how many airports there are? Just underneath this airspace. We all know LAS, right? How many airports are there altogether underneath the Vegas airspace? Throw out a guess. 7. Yep, 7 is right. So we got Harry Reid. Throw another one out. Boulder City, North Las Vegas, Henderson. Good Springs doesn't have an airport, but close. You're thinking of Jean, maybe? The Jean Airport? Ivanpah doesn't have a runway yet. Nellis. And then lastly is the Perkins, the Overton Perkins Airport. Nobody really thinks of it, but it's technically underneath the airspace. So there's actually 7 airports here just in this small southern Nevada. We operate out of 2 of them, but I'm going to highlight the Henderson one just because that's home to me. So this airport, I thought this picture was kind of fun. Right now, this is one runway. There's currently 2 runways at the Henderson Airport. And for those of you that are familiar, this is St. Rose Parkway. It's a nice dirt road there. Costco would be right here. For those of you, and the Raiders would be right here. But the airport originally was just one dirt runway. Clark County purchased it in 1996. They reconfigured it just over 20 years ago. So this is a pretty young airport in the grand scheme of things. 2006, they put a terminal building and an air traffic control tower. So the tower's only been there literally for 20 years. Some of the things that fast forward to what it is now, so if any of you guys have driven that direction lately, so this is Raiders Way right here. So Raiders Way, the airport used to end right there. This is as of last year. They built this entire ramp here so that we can support events like this. Because this is what it used to look like. If you can see, here's this here is right there. Now we can support events like that and still have planes coming and going for these events. What kind of events are we talking about? We're talking about National Finals Rodeo. We're talking F1. We're talking the Super Bowl, CES. I mean, the ramp gets to be absolutely madness when there's these big events that are in town. So these upgrades are very helpful to the business community, so that we can keep on feeding all those tourists, right? They're in the midst right now of redoing the terminal since it's 20 years old. And then the other fun thing, they're actually having a ribbon cutting today. I'm going to miss it, but you can see these hangars right here. These are the newest hangars that they just opened up a couple weeks ago, and they're having the ribbon cutting. So if anybody asks you, you learned it here. So this is Mark Wahlberg's hangar right there. wonder where he keeps his jet. That's what it is. So with that, I really don't have a ton more to say, other than to continue to support your community in your way, and I'm honored to be doing it here with like-minded Christians, and make sure that you guys are tithing and taking good care of your pastors. So that's all I got. Sure.
Slide before the number of employees.
Before the number of employees. Yeah. Uh-huh.
No, sorry, one more.
Okay.
The bottom of that.
Uh-huh.
Is that a sales tax abatement?
Oh, I wasn't going to get into the weeds. So this is a competitive advantage that we have. Okay, so in the state of Nevada, what do you guys pay when you go and buy anything for sales tax? You pay 8.375% sales tax, right? If you have an airplane and you need to buy a $100,000 engine, and Arizona doesn't have sales tax, and Nevada does, where are you going to buy that engine? Right? Now, that's a disincentive, right? So like we want people that are here to stay here, right? But more importantly, we want people from California to come here, right? So like in California, you're going to pay 9.5% sales tax. I can now market that, hey, we have Nevada tax abatement program. We participate in that. So you don't pay sales tax on those $100,000 engines or the $75,000 avionics or whatever it is that you're doing, so that you don't have that 8.375% sales tax. Good question. Yep. Any other questions? Yep.
If you could share just one quick story of one of your funny mistakes made in your first few years in aviation.
Funny mistake. I mean, the thing about aviation is that you want to minimize risk, right? And avoid mistakes. I'm going to say, so the funniest one, and thankfully I wasn't the one that actually did this, but my boss at the time, he wanted to get from Duluth to Minneapolis-St. Paul. Minneapolis-St. Paul was the fifth busiest airport in the world. And he needed to catch a flight, I forget what time, but he needed to catch a flight. So he's like, Paul, go out, start the engine. I'm going to finish this meeting. I'm going to run into the airplane. We're going to fly to Minneapolis as fast as possible. And I'm going to make it to my commercial flight out of Minneapolis-St. Paul. Like, okay, let's go, John. So he comes wobbling out, like I had his bag already in the back. He jumps in the plane, we take off, we land. And when we got to Minneapolis, we landed on the wrong runway. We landed on the right runway, but we wanted to be close to where it's called the FBO, where the FBO is. So it was about a mile taxi. And John was taxiing at 75 knots. And like at 80 knots, you fly, right? So like he's basically taxiing at rotation speed. And we get to a runway where we have to stop. So we come screeching to a halt. We're waiting for this airplane to land. Then we get cleared to cross. We get about halfway across the runway, and all of a sudden the plane just wants to go one direction. So what happened was he locked up, to stop in time. We blew a tire, right? And as we get halfway across the runway, we go to the side, I'm like, we can't go anywhere. So I quickly call our traffic control. I'm like, hey, I'm going to get out of the airplane. I'm going to lift up the wing. I'm going to try to walk it off the side of the runway, because there's a 747 straight from Tokyo looking down about a 2.5 mile final. Unfortunately, I didn't get it off the runway in time, but I got to see a 747 at like, 200 feet above my head. So, and he made his flight, in case you're wondering. He made his flight, so. Good question.
Just out of curiosity, what does it cost to be a private pilot? No ballpark cost. You don't mind me asking.
No, it's okay. Yep, so if you do it in our Cessna airplanes, it's about $25,000. If you're going to do it in the Cirrus airplanes, it's about $35,000. So that's the ballpark range. It all depends on proficiency, how fast you learn, how good you retain information, but in that ballpark.
Yeah, I came from Chicago. I had a friend that was a Christian entrepreneur, and he had developed a plane that would
kind of lift up more vertically before it took off? Whatever happened with that type of ideas?
So I spent 2 days this week at the Nevada Aviation Association, and I will say that one whole day was talking about the eVTOL, the electronic vertical takeoff and landing. This is the future. I mean, if you guys have heard of Joby's, you want to get in, like, I want to get to the hockey game after this is over. Wouldn't it be cool if I just walked outside, got in an eVTOL, took off, landed right at the T-Mobile Arena? That's what's coming. It's happening right now with packages, right? You can Amazon your stuff. One of the most fascinating presentations that I saw was the Las Vegas Metro Department. When there's a 911 call, they're in this city, there's 75 drones already pre-populated. The drone opens up, it literally flies to that spot, and it's overhead typically within 2 minutes. It takes the car responding about 10 to 12 minutes to get there, but the drone is already on site. It can read the license plate off of the vehicle if somebody's trying to evade. It can find the perpetrator. It can follow him in the backyard. I mean, it's a good question. It could go a lot of different directions, but get ready. Yeah.
All right, one more question. Speaking of
priorities. So can you tell us what services you offer? You do sales, you do training, maintenance?
Yes, and yeah. So I would say my main bread and butter is selling airplanes. We have 20 airplanes to do flight instruction. We have the 35 mechanics to do aircraft maintenance. We have the hangars to do storage. I jokingly tell people when you get in the elevator, hey, what do you do? I kind of have a marina, but at the airport, right? Like, where you can rent a slip, you can rent the plane, you can learn how to do it. Like, all the stuff that you would see at a typical marina, you'd see at our airport, at our business. What's that? The simulator, yeah, so we have a flight simulator to support flight training. Nobody does standalone instruction in just a simulator, but if you're learning how to fly in the clouds and you're in Las Vegas, we don't give many clouds, right? You want to simulate that by going in the simulator and flying in clouds. So,
We just have one more question.
sure.
Do you partner with any of the schools? So like I know Faith Lutheran has a flight simulator.
Yep.
And they're offering opportunities. So do you partner with them? in
Yes.
that?
Yep. So in Las Vegas here, Rancho is the most well-known aviation program. We are approved through CCSD to be able to receive the funds for that. I think they call it a magnet program. So that's the one through public school. And then you're right, Faith is definitely a private option. We don't partner necessarily with any one, but we'll provide the flight instruction part. They're doing all the ground school at school, and then they come to the airport and they do the flight part with us or with a competitive school. But yes, the answer is we'll certainly fly with kids. Yeah.
Thank you, Paul. Awesome. Take care of your pastors. That's a good one. Lord, we just thank you for this time. Thank you for all the blessings and the freedom to be able to come and meet like this and talk about God and just lift up everybody's business and look for praise and worship in our business. And we just thank you for this time in Jesus' name.